So this tech title sequence looks really complex, but there's a couple of key techniques that we do to really lighten the workload on making something like this. So before we get started, we're going to go over to the NASA website. There's a link in the description to this page. And what we're gonna grab is one of these pictures here. I grabbed this Earthlight 4800. It's 7 megabytes. I grabbed that one because these others are ridiculously big and a couple of these seemed a little smaller. So once you have that, I'm just gonna bring it right into your project. And here it is. Let's go right over into Fusion. Once we get into Fusion, we're going to make our Fusion comp. I'm gonna make mine at 30 frames. Completely up to you what you wanna make yours at. So once we have that made, double click on it. Once we double click on it, we have the media out here. That means that we're in that comp. And right off the bat, what we're going to be doing is creating the different elements for this title sequence. So our first icon that we're gonna make, and it's gonna be one of the primary colors in this project, is going to just be an arrow. So I'm just gonna grab a background, or excuse me, a triangle. And then we're just going to type in triangle. And to bring up this little menu here, all you're gonna do is hit Shift Spacebar, and you can bring this up and you can type in for any tool and it'll come up. And then once you have it selected, it's highlighted, you just hit enter or add, and then it'll add it down here. So we have our background. I'm gonna drag, to see our background, just drag it up to here. And then we're gonna connect this mask up. And then here we go, we have our mask, which is our triangle. And what we're gonna do is this background is going to be too big and it's kind of oddly shaped. Because it's 16 by 9, we have a weird shaped triangle. And I want like a perfect shaped triangle. So I'm just going to click right in here. And then this is going to enable me to change the size of this background node. So I'm just gonna click here to change the resolution so it's not on auto. And I'm just going to put in here 100 by 100. And then we have our little triangle. It's just looking a little blurry because it's blowing up for this window, because this is only 100 pixels wide by 100 pixels tall. And when it blows it up here, it's just gonna look a little blurry. But when we play it back, it'll look perfectly fine. So the next thing I'm gonna do is grab another background node, and we're just going to connect the out from the background node that has a triangle to the out of the second background node. And the second one, I'm just going to reduce the alpha channel so that it's transparent. And then in this merge, we'll just bring it up to here. So all I did is I took this background node that had the black, and I just got rid of it. So now we only can see this triangle here. Now in this merge, we can now move around this triangle. So what I'm actually going to do is move the triangle up to this corner. And then out of this merge, I'm gonna have it highlighted, shift spacebar, and just type in trans for transform. And then we have a transform node. And let's just play this one. Now this is where we're at with this one. I'm just going to hit this button and hit this button to have an arrow over here. And then I'm going to go out from this transform into this merge, which will then connect this and this together. And if we play it, we have two triangles, one that's up and one that's down. So why did I do this? And this is a way in which to save time when you're working on something that you're going to be duplicating a lot. So instead of making a whole plethora of different tools to have one arrow up and one arrow down, I'll just make one up and one down by just a transform. It'll start to make sense as we move on with this. If you've ever looked at any of my other projects where I use particles, you would first click right here and you would pull down a particle emitter, and then you would grab this guy for the renderer. So we emit the particles to make them spawn, and then we have to render them either in 2D or 3D, and that's where you determine it over here. So let's connect these two. And then if we take this render and just view the renderer here, and I'm just going to hit or hold Control and mouse wheel in, we can see that we have a sphere here and a couple of little dots. If I move this in further, you can see a ton of dots. So those are our particles. And in the emitter, if we come over to here, we can change how those particles are. Do we want them to be like a blob? And it kind of looks kind of bad there, but we can change it to different things. So like circles, but there's obviously a lot there. So let's come to up a little bit further. So we could have it, we could change these particles to whatever we want. Because we just made an arrow up and an arrow down and they're far apart, we're actually going to use that as the particle. And this becomes very powerful very quickly. So we're in the style. In the region, there's also a bitmap. We don't want that one. We just want to be in the style, and we're going to go to bitmap. When we do that, now we have an endpoint here. So what it's going to do, let's get two windows here. So this is that whole thing we're going to use as a particle. There's one up and one down, but the whole thing itself will act as one particle. So let's connect this in. And now over here, we have a bunch that are up and a bunch that are down. Let's add a little bit more stuff so that we can actually see how this looks. So I'm going to grab a camera and I'm going to grab a 3D renderer. And I'm going to go from the out of the camera into the out of the renderer, which will make a 3D merge. And then we just connect this over to the renderer. Now, if we play the renderer, let's just play it here by dragging it up here and releasing. Then in our merge, we'll play our merge over here so we can see where our camera is in relation to our particles. We'll click on the camera and then we'll drag back this camera. And now you can see that these particles, some are back here, some are up here. As we go around, we currently have, it almost looks like two like little balls. And if we look in here, we have a bunch that are up over here and a bunch that are down. Let's actually, I'm gonna pull this back a bit more so we can see them. Okay, so that's kind of like what we have going on so far. So we made one arrow up, one arrow down, and obviously as you progress in here, you're just going to have a lot of arrows all over the place once this is done rendering. So now we have a bunch of them all over. And right now it looks kind of bad because they're shifting around a little bit, but they're not shifting around that much. So it just looks like we have one ball of downs and a ball of ups. So if we were to, so let's get it to change a little bit. If we come into our emitter and then click here for the region for where they're going to spawn, what we'll do is we'll change this into a cube. And then in the cube, we can change how wide it is, how tall it is, and then how deep it is. And as you can see in here, they're all over the place. So now if we look on here, we have some ups, we have a down right there. So now they're all kind of scattered. And remember, all we did here is made one up, one down. We then made it into a pixel, or excuse me, a particle, and then we just enabled a particle system, and currently everything is set to default. So let's take a look at how our particles are. So it's saying that we produce 10 particles every frame, and then they last for 100 frames currently. That's how it's set up. So we're gonna change that a bit because we don't need to have this many particles going. So let's just come back to the beginning. So currently it's going to spawn 10. Let's just have it spawn, let's go at 7. We're actually going to keyframe that. And then we're going to come over one frame, and we just use the arrow keys for that. We're going to keyframe here and then 0. So it's just going to make 7 pixels, and then it's just going to be those 7 pixels. Okay. Lifespan. So currently they only last 100. So if we come to frame 100, they're all going to be dead because we start at frame 0. So frame 100 is actually 101 frames. So they're dead by then. So if we just change this to a higher number than our project, they'll stay here indefinitely. Okay. So let's take a look at everything that we have going on here. So we have a lot of pixels that These blue lines are where the camera can currently see. So we have a bunch that are down here that the camera can't see and over there. So let's just take this box. I have the emitter selected. Take this box and go in so that the majority of that box is inside of where the camera can see. Let's open up another viewer. We'll pop the viewer over here. And as you can see, we have particles all over the place, but let's change them so we can see them a little bit better. So we're going to click on this background node and we're going to click the coloration. We're just going to go to white. And then because we're pretty much done with the creating of this particle, we're just going to highlight all of this and then hit Control G and I'll turn it into a group. If we need to come back to it, we can double click to open it. But to just clean up things for now, we'll just keep them in a group. And then in the emitter, we have the ability to change the color of things, so our color controls. Now color controls are kind of cool with pixels because they can change color throughout time if you wanted them, or you can have them stay as one color. But for this project, I just want them to stay as one color. And I think I'm going to do like an orange, so something like that. And that's kind of where we're currently at. The cool thing about all of this is we're going to add some camera movement. So we're going to be moving through space. And if we look at this, we have everything in this box. So what we could do is we could turn on accumulation and we could then have depth of field. So some of them will be blurry, some of them won't be blurry. So let's take a look and see how that looks. So we'll come over to our renderer. We'll go to OpenGL, Accumulation Effects, Enable. And then I'm going to turn this up. You can turn it up. Let's just turn it up to 15 for now. If we want to have it look better, we can. And then I'm going to turn this down to 0.01. And now let's take a look at this and see what we have. Okay, everything's just out of focus. So let's go to 2 viewers. I'll close that so we can see this a little bit better. Over here we have the 3D. So I'm just holding Alt to move this around and holding down middle mouse button to move it around. I'm going to click on my camera here. And then we're going to come down to View Controls. And we'll just turn up the focal plane. So that's currently where the camera is focused. And we can move this back. So if we move it back, as you can see in the viewer here, we have a couple that are sort of in focus. If we move our camera back a bit, we have a couple that are in focus and a couple that aren't in focus. And then if just watch over here as I move this camera through, they'll go out of focus and then others will come into focus. So that's the idea that we want to have with this project. And it makes it look really cool. So remember how we just starting here, we made 2 arrows and then it went over into the emitter. And now we have all these different shapes and they look like they're kind of all over the place. That would have taken a long time to put those in 3D space. And the reason why I'm really explaining this over and over again is because we made those triangles. So now we can make any shape and have them have the same effect. So let's do that. Let's grab a 3D, or excuse me, a background, and then let's grab a mask paint. So mask paint, and then we'll just connect this up. And we'll just use one viewer for now and bring this up into here. Then we're going to click this button right here to make a path. I'm going to hold Shift down. I'm going to click, hold Shift down, click again. Holding Shift while I click, I can move these and make little lines like that. So I'll do that. And then I'm going to come over here, click this button again to make a new line. Click here. Click here, something like that. That'll make another one. Okay, now that I have these lines done, if I come over here to modifiers, we have all 3 strokes that we just made. I'm just going to turn down the softness and then make these lines nice and thin. So 0.002. seems like a good number. So let's just go through all of these and do the same thing. And then in here. Okay, so now we have our little lines. We'll make this white. All we have to do is take this stuff, copy it, paste it, bring it over, bring all of this over. Let me just turn on snapping. I don't know why, but snapping turns off when I go over to the edit page for some reason right now. It's like a little bug that I've been having. And then we're gonna come out from this renderer and go into our merge. Now let's take a look at what we have here. So now we have all these like little lines mixed in with this other stuff. So we can just continuously keep adding to this and adding to it and get really cool effects. But maybe I don't want this line to be that color. I would just come over here. Let's have it like a light blue, something like that. It's looking pretty good. Something else that we can add, so like techie or tech things like this, or sci-fi-ish things, will have like changing text. So let's just add a bunch of ones. You can make these whatever you want them to be. Doesn't really matter. Let's just view this here. What we're gonna do is right click in here and then text scramble, come over to modifiers. And now if I change this randomizer, it'll start changing everything in there. So that's pretty cool. So I think I'm going to add that in. Down here for animate on, time is just, time in Fusion is per frame. So I'm gonna turn that off. And then at the beginning here, I'm just going to keyframe here. The end here, I'll just do like 4. So as we play through here, it'll start to change things. But I think I'm going to start at like 1 and then do like 1.4. So we have a bunch of scramble going on already. So it'll start changing, and that's kind of cool. Okay, so back onto our text tool, we'll come over to the tools. I'm gonna change the font to something else. I have this like VCR font that I'll just use. That looks good. Then I'm gonna change the size of it down. And now I can take these two, copy it, paste here, bring it in, and then bring this renderer up to the merge. Now take a look at it. So now there's some work that we have to do here, but we kind of have like something going on here. One of the things we can do is in our emitter, we can change this randomized seed thing. So, because it seemed like those were starting to be the same, so we just change this and it'll just start to change its position. So we could do something like that. Now let's go to the beginning here, and in our camera, let's go back to two screens. So what we could do at the beginning here is we could back up a bit, so something like that, and clicking on our camera. Wait a second. Yeah, okay. Clicking on our camera, we would just keyframe here. We can come like to the end and then come in till we have something else in focus. Maybe like that. So we're just kind of like moving through here. Now we're only going at like 6 frames per second now, and that's perfectly fine, but let's go back over this cache stuff. So we have stuff kind of like moving in and out. And all we have to do is just keep adding things and adding things to stuff that we think would be kind of cool. And we can kind of do other things here. So all of these like triangles look kind of cool, but let's add something extra to them. So we'll just take all of this stuff and we'll move it up because this is where our triangles are. And I'm going to actually grab another renderer, and I'm going to go from the camera into this renderer, and I'm going to disconnect that from the camera to the particle renderer into a merge, because if we're going to keep that camera move, we want it to be the same even if we have multiple renderers. And the reason why I want to have multiple renderers, because I'll have this come into here, And now this is my rendered project for the, or what I have rendered for the triangles. Coming out of here, I could do like a glow, right? And now this glow effect, if I like boost this up a bit, we'll take a look at this actual glow effect. We could start to make these look kind of cool, right? Maybe turn the size down a little bit. Something like that. So we have like in here it's bright and then, you know, the color changes a bit. I think that looks pretty cool. It adds something else to it. And then we could come out from the glow into the output of this renderer. Now we have both of them together. So back here we have all of the other stuff. If it ever comes into focus, we have the other stuff, and then we also have these, and they both have the same attributes. Actually, this one doesn't. So I'm actually just going to get rid of that renderer, bring in the this renderer because I'm copying it, so it'll have the depth of field stuff that we had set, and so everything should be the same here. So going through, and now let's start to add some other stuff in here. So I'm just going to grab another background, and we can take this stuff and like group it. Oops, hit too many buttons. Group it just so that we, you know, keep this a little cleaner. And we'll come into this background, and let's make let's do another mask paint, and let's grab a and come, let's go like this. All right, looks good. In here we'll go size, and we'll make that size like that and turn the softness down. Coming out of here we'll do a transform, and then we will just flip it that way so it's over here. Now if we connect the two of these, now this is what we have going on, but I want to add one more thing into here. So into here I'm going to grab a background, an ellipse tool, and I'm just going to connect these two, and I'm going to make this smaller, and then I'm just going to bring this up to here, just so that we have like a dot there. And let's connect these two. I'll just move those out of the way, and we'll view this. Let's go to 1, fit, and we'll bring this down just a little bit. So we have a dot there, and I'll just move this out. Copy and paste, Control C, Control V, move this down to here. Have one there, Control C, Control V, zoom out a bit, drag this over to here, just like that. Then Control C, Control V, and we'll move this one down here. Now, instead of having these connected to here, I'll just come out of here, because we'll just connect this stuff to these. Now if we view this, we have two sides. So that's pretty cool. And we'll come in here and make these both white. So there we go. Something else we can do to this is, so next we're just going to grab a background, and we're going to make that invisible, and we're going to connect these two up. And then viewing it, we see it here, but we're going to grab a rectangle and connect that. And now we see just this little bit. Let's go full width and bring it down, make it real small, and add some soft edge to this. That might be a little much. So something like that. And then we'll take this all the way down to the bottom. Down here, come to the beginning and keyframe this, and let's come into like frame 10, sure. We're gonna go all the way up to the top. Can't actually see it, up to the top, so like that. And then we'll come over to the spline tool. We're gonna come over to these three little dots and hit show only selected. And we will click to see just these keyframes. We're gonna highlight them, right click, and we're gonna go to set loop, and we're just going to do a normal loop. So now when we look at this, so that's where what we got going here so far. It's like these little lines just shooting about. So next, we're not going to make this into a particle system. What I'm going to do instead is bring down a image plane, and we're going to connect this into an image plane. And then once we have that connected into an image plane, we're just going to bring this up to the 3D merge. I'm going to take all of this stuff just to get it out of the way for now. Hit Control G, make it into a group, make it a little easier, clean up this stuff a bit. And now we take a look at what we have going on here, and I click on that plane. I'm going to click on rotation. And I don't know which way I'm going to do it yet, but let's just go -90. And let's go down and maybe out a bit. But let's get two views going here and take a look at what we're looking at here. And it looks like what we're actually going to end up doing is grabbing a new renderer, dropping the renderer down. I'm just curious if we turn off the motion blur, or excuse me, not motion blur, depth of field, what this would look like. Let's disconnect that. Whoops, play this over here. Oh, we don't have the camera connected. Might need that. We're going to connect it right here. So now we have that merge coming in, and now we have the camera. We'll bring that over to here. See what we're going. Okay, there we go. We have it right there. So I think what I'm going to do is move this out a bit and maybe tilt it up like that. I think that looks good. Then I'm going to come over and change the color of it. Let's go with that light blue again. What I'm actually going to do is a clever little trick you can do to not do so much work, is that after this I'm just going to get a duplicate 3D node. So now that's connected. And so we'll view it over here. What I'm actually going to do is bring it up and maybe out a little bit, and we're going to rotate it down, or let's rotate it down like that, maybe come up. So let's see how that looks. So as it's coming, those are kind of going. I think I'm actually going to rotate it this way, 180, maybe bring it back a bit further too. All right, where is it? All right, I think we're kind of all over the place now. There we go. Now let's add in our that background that we had from earlier. So we'll bring down that earth. We'll view the earth, and for some reason it's not filling up that screen, so we'll just do a transform and view the transform. Have it fill up that screen. And then coming out of this, we'll do a bitmap and not connect it that way. We want to connect it into it and view that. And let's go to luminance and let's pull, whoops. Let's just pull down the low. Try to get rid of some of that other stuff. So a lot of that other stuff is out of there now. And then we can pull in a image plane. We can just connect into this merge. So now we can see all of this. And we'll take this and we'll bring it back. And we'll probably also want to make that a bit smaller. So we're going to scale this down. I think that was a bit much. Scale it down something like that. See what we're looking at here. Not that bad, but I want to come in a bit more. And let's see what it does when it's flying through here. Okay. So that is probably in the middle of all of this other stuff. So yeah, that doesn't look all that bad. One thing that I think I want to do is change the color though to something else. And let's also add just a background node so that we have a background color here. Something dark, like a dark blue. And we'll just connect these up. This is the 2D merge that we had. So now when we have everything, that's kind of where we're at with this. I think this group that I have here, I think I want this to be a little more white. And now we just need to add in a bit more like texture, more stuff in front of everything. So I'm just going to, I'm actually going to take all of this stuff that I have here and bring this all down quite a bit, because this stuff here is all the particle stuff that we've been working on. So we'll just view this and we're gonna go 10 by 10, just a little square. Bring up another background down, and we'll view it. We have a little dot right there. I'll make it white. And for this little dot, I am going to get a duplicate node, and let me move this quick. Move it up there. Duplicate node, let's do 25. View this duplicate node and pull these over. Another duplicate node, and let's do 20. View. Something of that nature. And let's see here. If I take all of this now, move it up, and I'm going to connect this to this because that's that node that has nothing, and then come into here. Let me do like a invert, just so that doesn't look the same. We'll do something like that, then maybe another rectangle here. And we will do this as a, I believe, multiply. Hello? There we go. And let's have this height. And maybe like that. So we have some over here and some there. So then we'll grab these two, particle emitter and renderer, and we will come out of this merge into the emitter, take all of this, make it into a group, and we'll connect all of that, and then we'll come in here and take a look at what we have going so far. Let's look at this. Okay, I don't even see it really. Maybe there's a little bit there. Let's see its position. We start there and then we move to there. I think what I'm going to do now is, coming out of all of these, I'm going to do a duplicate 3D. And actually, let me just view it all. The 3D, I will okay, we have like little boxes. That's kind of good. I think I want to add some more text in. This is kind of just like a thing where you just keep adding and adding and adding to it. Let's take a look and see how this is looking so far. So to see what this looks like full screen, I'm just going to, I think this is my media out, yeah. Grab my media out and come to the end of my node tree, connect this up. Now it's connected to my media out. Come over, drop it on a timeline, and now that it's on the timeline, I can hit Control F and I can see what this is starting to look like. It's not looking bad. We just need a lot more of other stuff added. Like, I want to add more text, because as you can see, like these text blocks are all the same. So like maybe like a long string, a couple long strings, a couple of like tall ones, a couple like little windows. I don't know, you can add a ton of different stuff. Let's have this render quick and take a quick gander at this, and then add a couple of more things. But overall, this is just something that kind of one of those things I can give you a couple of tips here and there on a couple of ideas that were used to build it, but then you kind of just have to, you know, play with it until you figure out what looks good. A step-by-step guide to build something like this that is so complex would end up being an extremely long tutorial, because I'm just doing the same things over and over again. I'm not teaching new tricks throughout the process. So just teaching you the couple of tactics to use to build something like this. And then we'll go into, once we have a lot of layers, how to get those layers to look a little bit better by changing the size of the location that we can have things render in, like making them deeper, so we can have more depth of field and make it seem like you're flying through a lot more stuff. All right, if we take a look at this, I think these are going way too fast. These like little lines that we ended up making, I think they go way too fast. I think that I want to change their color to the same color as these as these orange guys, and I think I want to make them elements themselves smaller. Other than that, I think everything else is pretty good. Like I said before, you need to just add more like text stuff and more random things scattered to like fill up all this empty space that we have throughout this whole thing. First one is these lines. So let's just double click on it and work on these lines. I felt like these were already pretty thin when I made these. 0.1. Okay, that made that thinner. And then let's just view this. So we made that thinner, and then these guys, make these a bunch thinner. Okay, made it completely small. I think something like that. I think that's a good number. So I'll just copy that to these other ones since they already have the position correct. Come in here, change the position. All right. I think that looks better. All right, so we'll close that. And let's see. Okay, here's our line. There goes our line. All right, so the other animation is way too fast still too. So let's take a look in here. And then this animation is going too fast. So let's go back into our spline. Just select it because we have that one selected. And then all we have to do is just move this top keyframe. So just double the speed. So it's out to 20 and it'll continue. It'll just completely change that loop that we have. So that will be fine. But now it doesn't even seem like I have those dots anymore. Oh, they're still there. Let's purge cache. So maybe I wasn't looking at the right thing before. I'm not sure. Take a view of this. Alright. There's those lines. Alright, the little dots. I think that actually looks perfectly fine. So that's connected all the way down here, but we want to have it look the same as this one up here. Actually, you know what? Let's just connect it up and see what happens. Because this up here has the depth of field and this stuff doesn't. So let's just disconnect that. We'll bring it up here. Whoops. Let's reconnect that. Okay, we need all of this stuff. So we'll grab this stuff. We'll make this small again. So it just looks like 3 nodes. Grab all of these, bring them up to match up here. Connect this in and let's go into here. This guy, we'll grab this color. So that's the same exact color. Come into our plane, change this color. That's what I'm talking about. Look at that. That's looking pretty cool. Okay, so I'm liking that. Now let's just add a little bit more text, and we'll move on from here. Save. All right, we're kind of getting somewhere here. But these are just one of those things where, you know, it just takes a little bit of time. I think I'm gonna grab just all of that text stuff and bring it down and then just modify a couple of things in here. So we'll come over here. We'll add, we'll take, let's just do one where we take all of this away, but we just make one line pretty long. We'll just connect this right in. And in here we will change the random seed so that it moves its location. And then in the emitter, we'll come to the beginning and change the number to, let's go to 9. And let's also take a look at, bring this into here, take a look at how deep this is. So we can also come into the emitter and then change the depth so they spawn. But where is the beginning of this? I want to bring this back a little bit because I don't want all of them to be out of focus like that. Or right out of the get-go. Okay. So that looks fine to me. Looks like there's a couple in the back and a couple in the front. All right. Let's just grab this and right away just add another one. And modifier, copy all of that. And let's actually do maybe 2 wide, 3 wide, 3 wide. So we'll copy that, we'll bring that into here, and we will come into here and change the seed. Changing a seed will, when it gets its location, it'll have a completely different location. So let's just view what we have going on so far. Let's come over here so we can see it full screen. Okay. We have these long ones. I don't see the... Let's change the frame. Oh, right here. Got them going up and down. I think that looks really cool. It's adding a lot more to it. I'm gonna grab a background. We're gonna go back to just one viewer, and I'm gonna make it seem like it's a little panel that we're working on. Let's bring my border up. Then adding text to this as well. View and see what that looks like. Okay, we're going to align it to the left, and we are going to move it over a bit and shrink it down. Change the font to what we've been using, bring it up, shrink it down, bring it up. Something like that, and let's anchor to the top, and we'll put it right in the corner just like that, and we'll put random on this, come over, change this, start at the beginning at 1, come to this end 1.4. Oh, I never made keyframes. Keyframes are probably a good idea. 1.4, 1. All right, change this to white. And I'll just grab 2 of these. Don't really know what the settings are on them yet, but that's fine. Bring it up to here. Let's take a look. What color is this? Okay, that's fine. But I want to change, bring this into here. Okay, I can tell that these borders are way too freaking big. Bring this back up into here. All right, bring this up. That might work. Seems like it might be too many of them though. 9, let's do 4. And it's, all right, let's take a look and see how that added to it. Okay, those are right there. Let's, let's make these boundaries a little closer to the camera. Oh gosh. Make these boundaries a little closer to the camera boundaries. So in the back, so all we'll do is click on this guy, and the depth, we're gonna shrink down. See where the end of this is. Shrink it down even more. We'll bring it forward. Okay, all of that is in the boundaries of it, so that'll be in focus more. All right. Maybe less of them. Let's do less of them in here. Just 2. Change this. Okay. And now take all of this, and make it into a group. And I'm going to make another one, just paste it here, using the work that I've spent time on, and we'll just get rid of the we'll just get rid of all of this, get rid of that, and then it'll just be the text now. So there'll be one with the text, one not with it, and then in here we just change the seed so it gets placed in a different location, and it's going to look a little bit different because it's not going to have that border, so it's going to look like it's unique to itself. I think I want to add a couple more like little lines, so grab this. What did I use for that? Mask paint. Connect that in. So let's view this and shift, little line. Oops. New line. Perfect. And modifiers. No, wait, I think it was like that. Oh geez, what am I doing? Okay. Softness all the way down. Here's our two lines. We'll go to white. And I never even connected that. Maybe I did, I don't know. Paste, connect this into here. And for this, I'm gonna add these lines a lot, but let's first get them in here. And then after this, I'm gonna do a duplicate 3D. Let's view this. Alright, duplicate 3D, let's go view this. I'm going to do 5, and where does this, I'm going to push this back to there, and then the duplicates, I'm going to pull up and go like that. Maybe across, I don't know. I think that looks fine. Let's just see how we're overall like looking in here. Let's come halfway in, full screen. Everything's looking okay. I just don't like the overlapping. So we might need to look into that. Okay, just changing the seed, fix that problem, sorta. There we go. That looks significantly better. Alright, so after viewing this, I could potentially make the locations that the particles spawn greater, and then have the camera moving quicker as well. And then everything is looking pretty good. Like I was saying, this node here that has just about everything, we could change the camera. I think the end position is perfectly fine. What I would do is actually this be start position. I would just come into my camera and then just back it up a bit. So back it up something like that. I don't know. And let's go into our offset and look at this. I'm going to ease the end point of this and then hit T and then change my easing in so it comes in real quick and then it slows down for the rest of everything. And then since I changed the position of that, I would also want to come into all of my emitters and make my emitter depths bigger. And then we can move this up. I think I can actually go like 1.2 or maybe like even 1.6 and change the depth of all of my like little particles. Okay, it's looking a bit better, hopefully. Now we'll have a bunch of stuff that's in focus at different ranges. And so what I can do now is I have to come into, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna view where everything else is, but I'm going to be editing the triangle node that we had. And that's just so I can see where everything else is at. Because if I just view the merge with this, there isn't really anything there. So being able to see like where some of the stuff ends and where this starts would really help. Okay, now I'm gonna take a look at this again. And now we have a bit that, you know, starts in here. One of the other things that we can do if we wanted to at the start here, we could come down to our earth, which is here in this transform. The image plane, I think we changed the scale. Yeah, we changed the scale. We could scale this up a bit. Now this is staying at the same location in three-dimensional space. We're just scaling it. So when we come to the end here, let's see what we're at. So we're really zoomed in here. What if we just go like that? What does it look like there? Okay, that might work. Nah, I think I want it to be a little bit bigger. And then maybe bring it down just a little bit. So something like that maybe. Does it look like when we get in here though? All right. We have to remember in the middle, that's where we would really have our text. So what I'm actually going to do is just add the text on top of everything. As just a normal text for now. Our text, what we're going to do is just add a follower. I'm going to come over to modifiers and we're going to do a delay of 2 frames. And so then in our follower, we're going to come down to a keyframe here and keyframe. Let's keyframe at like frame 5. We'll add another keyframe here. Let me just drop this down so we can see all of this. And then at the beginning, we're just going to bring our Y down, right? And then it's just going to pop up like that. And what we're going to add then is going to add a rectangle to this so that when it's up here is the only time it's going to be visible, because it'll go out and then it'll come in. And we can also, because of that, we can add a motion blur. So then when it comes in, there'll be a bit of, whoops, I added motion blur to the, that doesn't need to get added to that. And here, add motion blur into this. Okay, then that will pop up and we will see it come into here. For our text itself, I think I'm going to change the color to maybe that color that we had on these guys. Actually, I'm going to grab the same exact color. I believe it's at the top here. Yeah, right there. Grab that same color. Bring it down to in here. So we have that same color. And then I'm also going to grab the glow, because the glow might look cool, right? Who knows? Yeah, glow looks cool. Okay. Add that glow, and then on here, I think instead of having that hard edge like that, I'm going to add a bit of a soft edge so it looks like it appears like whew. All right, I think that is looking a lot better. I'm pretty happy with this. I think that this, I think this was the, no. Oh, I added it up here. That's right. This guy that has this going on, I think I'm going to just take it, I'm going to duplicate it. I'm going to add a 3D transform. I'm going to bring it in, and then I'm going to just rotate it 90 degrees so that it comes in like from the sides too. So let's take a look at that. So it should come in from the top and bottom and then on the sides as well. So I think if I did it the right way. And then in the middle it'll just say JR, and I could then have this at the end here. I could just have it like disappear. So let's first start with this just disappearing here. So I'm just going to, in the blend, click here. Actually, I'm going to start at 100. Let me take this keyframe away. Come here, and then have it come all the way out. And then I'm also going to, where this is going out, right here, I'm going to do the same for this and have that go out as well. Right? And then you could just really have like one go into another, go into another. So I'm going to render this out, and yeah, we'll take a look at it quick. So now taking a look at this actually is starting to look pretty good. The only thing that I might add here is towards the end, when it's starting to slow down, maybe adding some more elements in there, possibly, to just make it seem like there's a bit more texture, a bit more, you know, going on in that background there. That's pretty much the only thing I would really add. So if we jump back into our project here, we take a look at everything. I really feel like we're doing really good. There's a couple of spots that can use some help, but with anything like this, you know, you could mess around with it for a long period of time until you get it just right. So I think what I'm going to do is just take a couple of these elements that I already made, maybe make a duplicate node, and just push everything to like the back area, and yeah, and then, you know, just kind of call it a day on this one. I think that we pretty much covered everything that, you know, you would really need to do with something like this. So let's actually, you know what I think I'm gonna do? I think I'm gonna just make a transform. Oops, not a regular transform, but a transform 3D, and I'm just gonna come out of here into this, and then just connect this into my 3D. Let's actually take a look at my 3D that I have going on here. Take a look at this node, and we're just going to push this one back, and on the other screen, take a look at that. So if I was to turn this off, turn it on, we got a couple, you know, adding in here. That's looking all right. Maybe a duplicate after the 3D, and then just make like, let's just do 3 and keep it on that same plane, and then just move it over a bit, as you can see here. And then maybe we could rotate everything. I think we're kind of locked to camera rotation. Yeah, we are. We're locked to camera rotation, but that's fine because, yeah. And you know what? Adding to this, let's grab that node again. Then adding to this, I think I'm going to put in like a 3D duplicate. And let's view where we're at on here. Let's bring this in. Here's our 3D duplicate. Maybe make 3 duplicates and maybe add a bit of like, do like 0.5. Keep it on that same plane, but just move it around a bit. Something like that. Just to add a bit more stuff in that background. All right, what else can we add? We have those lines. So let's take a look. Okay, these lines here. I think what I'm going to do is just grab a renderer, and right here I'm going to do a transform. We're going to go into the transform up here. Whoops. Bring that up here and just rotate this. Let's get those, like these lines at least straight. And then bring this into here. Bring this down here. And where is that currently positioned? Okay, we're kind of big on that. And I only really need to fill in the back. I don't really need to worry about the front so much. So all I'm going to do is come into my emitter, my depth, bring my depth down. And then I'm going to push this back to like this back area where the rest of the stuff is. Let me see on my rendered if we can see any of that stuff. Where are we? Here. Not back far enough. Let's see, where do we end at? So right about here is where we're slowing down. So let's get this stuff like right in here. Something like that. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to make the depth a bit more. And the reason why I'm going to make the depth a bit more is because there's too much in focus here. And having a bit of it in the back would be perfectly fine. But not really having much up ahead. I think I'm going to make this 2 again, but having a bunch of this towards the back. Yeah. Okay. I think I'm going to make everything spread out a bit. Change up this seed. Okay, I think that adds a little bit to it. And like I was saying, you know, this can just keep going on and on and on with all the different layers that you're adding. But I think you kind of get the idea here for creating something like this and, you know, making it seem like there's more. So with that said, I think that kind of concludes this video. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about this one. If you have any other ideas or suggestions, leave them down below. Again, my name's JR, and Thanks for watching.